we have arrived. We've had over 500 people from around the world register for this event. My name's James Ski. I'm the founder of Sales Confidence, and I'm so happy today. We've got the wonderful CEO and founder of Venatrix, who's going to be co-hosting this SDR event and all our future SDR events. Elaine, thanks for being here.
Great, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, James.
Super excited. As we both know, we love the SDRs. Can you guys just click on the stage button and then just let us know if you can see and hear us? That's the first test. Just if you can chat, yeah, we can see you. That would help me feel less nervous and anxious. Excellent. Welcome, everyone. Look, as we said, we love the SDRs or the BDRs or whatever that term that describes you at the beginning of your sales career. This is the most exciting event in our calendar because you guys bring so much energy. So we're going to have lots of fun today. And Elaine and I are going to introduce you to some amazing speakers. Today, what we're going to do is Elaine and I are just going to have a brief chat about why we work together and why we care about the SDR profession so much. We're going to share a little bit about our partners, which are really important. So if you're a partner, say hi in the chat. And then I've got a couple of questions that I'm just going to ask because we've got so many people dialing in from around the world. I'm just going to get some questions around like what tools you like, what type of school you went to, some other things that we can ask to have a bit of fun. Then we're going to go into the 7-minute talks. So there's going to be a number of 7-minute speakers who will cover topics in 7 minutes. And then at the end, there'll be a panel discussion, which Elaine will lead. Please, please, please stay beyond the panel discussion because we also have networking. And the networking is a little bit like a roulette wheel. You just appear like Elaine and I are on this screen, and you can quickly break the ice with people and get connected. So, God, this is exciting, Elaine. How good is this? Although I must admit, I do miss in-person events. Mm-hmm. When do you predict everybody will be able to get back together and have a good time?
Well, I think that's a question for you to answer, isn't it, James? I was expecting it as the 5th point on Boris's roadmap about when Sales Confidence was going to be back live in person.
I'm surprised he didn't mention it, to be honest. I know many of you are dialing around from the world, but I'd love to know in the chat, just say yes or ignore it. Have you been to an in-person Sales Confidence event before? Yes, or don't say anything. So while we're getting those answers in, I'm feeling loads of optimism right now. I don't know about you. I feel like we're getting through the worst of it, and I feel like there's a lot more fun ahead of us. But just before we start the first introductions, Elaine, I'd love just to ask a few questions of you. Why does it matter? Why do you care about the SDR? Why is it important to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. So I'm personally super passionate about individuals at the early start point of their career, because I think that when people get to join a great mentor in a fast growth organization with an exciting trajectory, that gives them the opportunity to hone their commercial skills at such a pace that it really sets the foundation for them to become a successful professional commercial person in the future. And I think that the SDR role tests and teaches people in so many different dynamics of being organized, identifying potential prospects, identifying buying personas, changing your messaging, being energetic, being resilient, showing tenacity. And I think that having those principles set in the early stages of your career really provides a springboard for you to be successful down the line. So that's why I feel so passionate about sales development.
That's great points. I think so many of you don't realize this, but you are embarking in what I personally consider, and I think Elaine would agree for me, the most exciting role within any business. You know, even if you decide to move out of sales later on, you have got a great grounding in building business acumen, understanding commercials, improving your communication influencing skills. And this is just going to set you up for success. And what Venatrix and Sales Confidence want to achieve with the support of our partners is that we want to give you the tools to be successful. And so on that question, I'd love to know, what is your favorite sales tool that you use day to day? Put it in the chat. So I'm really grateful that that we drive these events because of the support of SalesLoft, who is our diamond partner, which provides a sales engagement platform. We've got Varicent for sales performance management. We've got MindTickle, which we're about to announce, that deals with sales readiness to help you on board. Of course, we've got the wonderful team at Venatrix that helps you navigate your career. Aircool for phone system. And then we've got the likes of Air Marketing, SalesWorks, Refract, Cognism, and now Sales Psyche. So if you're looking at your team to improve your mental well-being, Sales Psyche is the company in Chris Hatfield to get engaged. Question for you, Elaine. I'm throwing these out there because I'm making this up on the spot. I didn't prep for this. What's your best sales confidence memory of the live events?
Yeah, I think that I think it was probably around about like this time last year when we went to the Andaz Hotel for one of the, I think it was one of the first events that we did there, and we had Shelley Lavery delivering a speech, and I just really remember just so many people being gathered in one room, everybody kind of hanging on every word that she was delivering, feeling truly inspired, and just the energy and the electricity of everybody coming together to share fantastic knowledge, and everybody feeling like they had actionable insights that they could take back into their workplaces was really exciting. I think that was around about this time last year.
Well, yeah, but this is the point. It wasn't this time last year. It was this time 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah, it was this time 2 years ago. Sorry, time has gone so quickly and so slowly.
So if you haven't seen that, check out Shelley Lavery on the Sales Confidence YouTube channel. I've got another question for you. And did you go to a private school? So a school that was funded essentially by your parents or grandparents or other members of the wider family? Or did you go to a state-funded comprehensive school? So just put state if you went to a state-funded comprehensive school, and put private if you went to a school that was funded. I just love to know where people are origin is from the schooling. Okay, so we've got some amazing speakers today, Elaine. Really lucky that we're going to have Neith Bainbridge, who's going to open up the event. She's a commercial SDR from SalesLoft. Charlie Beale, who is a sales development manager from Cognism. We've got Ben Flowers that's going to be dialing in, who is an AE at Perkbox. Olivia Dorval, who's a commercial account executive from Confluent. And then we're going to wrap up with Karen Svane, who's the director of business development from our platinum partner, Varicent. Something that I want to point out to everybody is that what we've tried to do for you guys as SDRs and girls, BDRs, is to help you think about what you need to do to get promoted. So you'll notice at this particular event, we've got SDRs that are going to share some tactical experience, but we've also got some AEs, so you understand what you need to do to move to the next level in your career, and that's super exciting. Feel free to ask questions in the chat as we go through this. Your speakers are going to be highly prepped and focused, so they might not answer on the go, but Elaine will navigate at the end for the panel. Anything you want to add, Elaine, before you kick off with the first speaker?
I think one of the points that I wanted to talk about today was just saying a big congratulations to the whole SDR and BDR community for how much camaraderie and support I think that you guys have shown over the pandemic. I mean, hopefully we are, fingers crossed, and roadmap in hands somewhere on the way to exiting that now. But when I was thinking about some of the points we might discuss, one of the things that really kind of hit home to me was thinking about the example that this level of professional have really set to the rest of the market in terms of their desire to want to help each other out. And I think that that's been super duper impressive over the pandemic. So well done, guys. Keep it up.
Excellent point. I totally agree with that. I think it's a great representation to this profession. By the way, I did create a poll. Thanks for the tip, April. So you can actually answer on the poll. I like the chat though, because you get a little bit of energy. Anyway, let's get to the 7-minute speakers. That's what you're here for. Elaine, please can you introduce our first speaker, Neith Bainbridge?
Indeed, my pleasure. My pleasure to introduce Neith Bainbridge. She is a Venatrix alumni, so I'm glad I get the opportunity to introduce her. Now a commercial SDR at SalesLoft, and today she's going to be talking to us about the power of team, covering a couple of points around the importance of support, what diversity means in this context, and also supporting all values and voices, including the quieter ones. So to give you a bit of background on Niamh, she was born in York and moved all around the UK growing up, but at age 11, she moved to Beijing, China, to do her international GCSEs. She then returned to the UK to carry out her A-levels and then completed a degree in photography. She believes that she was fortunate to commence her first role within a few days of graduation, starting as an inbound SDR with Trendkite just before they got acquired by Cision. Neith then moved into an outbound role, and having joined SalesLoft almost a year ago during lockdown in 2020, she's been performing a commercial SDR role and particularly enjoys the dynamics of selling to salespeople. Neith loves working with a team that has common values and a passion to achieve their business objectives by leveraging each other's strengths. So really looking forward to this one. Take it away, Neith.
Hi everyone, I'm Neith. Like Elaine said, I'm a commercial SDR at SalesLoft. I've been working there for about 10 months now. For those of you who don't know, SalesLoft is the leading sales engagement platform helping revenue teams deliver the best possible customer experience. My experiences of working so closely with everyone in the team since April last year was actually the inspiration of what I'm going to be talking about today. So referring to the power of a team. So just to give you guys a little bit more background, so I started SalesLoft during the first lockdown. So I did all of my initial training and onboarding remotely from Edinburgh, which is where I was living at the time. So not exactly close to London. This was a concern of mine, you know, not working with the team every single day in the office, being a newbie. But on reflection, I can say that being part of such a great team, the remoteness was of no consequence when it came to learning the role and understanding, you know, how to sell into this industry. So I initially underestimated, you know, how much a virtual team could impact my productivity, my personal development, and my resilience. So I just wanted to share with you guys today just 3 foundation topics of what I think creates such a great team. And they are the importance of support, diversity, and inclusivity. So firstly, the importance of support. So I believe that having emotional support has a huge impact. So it's about celebrating success, but also having no judgment, especially when it comes to failure. I just think it's really important to create that open environment where you're celebrating one another, what's happening in your day. For example, when I booked my first demo and it turned into a sales developed opportunity, I was so proud of myself, you know, finally getting something on the board along with a team that were just high performing, and our WhatsApp group was just going off. I mean, everyone was saying like, well done, first of many, like keep up the good work. And I just kind of thought to myself, like, okay, like clearly I'm doing something right. Like, let's just do it all over again. So it wasn't like I really just didn't have this level of support around me and this virtual energy like before. Like I just wasn't really used to it. Because if you flip it around to something that didn't go quite well, for example, a cold call or a discovery call that just turns into a complete disaster, and it has definitely happened to the best of us. I used to just feel quite embarrassed that something didn't go well, and I just didn't really want to share it with anyone because it was kind of like all my fault in a way. But I finally came to realize that, you know, it's okay to have a laugh when something doesn't go to plan, because everyone in the team just isn't going to judge you for it. Like, they don't really care. They just want you to succeed. And the sooner that you bring up these mistakes and train yourself, the better SDR that you're going to become. So this has definitely helped build my resilience. I mean, I bounce back a lot quicker when something doesn't go quite right, but it happens every single day. So you'll eventually get over it. The second topic I want to talk about is diversity. So with this, I'm not referring to the importance of gender and ethnicity, kind of going beyond that, I'm referring diversity within your skill and your thought. So referring to skills, I think this is, you know, every single person in your team has a specific superpower, you know, meaning that everyone brings something special to the table and you can go to that person for help. So for example, when I need help on my personal branding, I go to Tom Boston. He creates hilarious LinkedIn videos every single week, and I can just call him up and be like, how do I write this post? Please help me. Or creating a talk track or doing objections, like, you know exactly who you're going to go to. But it's just important to realize that, you know, you also bring something to the table, like you bring something to the team and you are hired for a reason. You know, you're not only learning from the people around you, but they're also learning from you, taking your advice, no matter what level you're at in your career. And to be honest, it did take me a while to realize that. But it's also important to acknowledge cognitive diversity as well. So by this, I'm referring to individuals having distinctive viewpoints, and it's about, you know, using that to your team's advantage, you know, to solve problems, develop solutions, and just be better in your role as an SDR. I started to like realize that people were also learning from me, and I had the ability to share my thoughts and my ideas, and people were actually learning from that. And I think the outcome of this that a lot of people would be able to kind of like support is you grow as a person, like professionally and personally. The last section is inclusivity. So this one is probably the most important to me. By creating that inclusive environment, you're ensuring that every single person is heard and equal. So just to clarify, I don't mean equal as in, you know, we are all the same. I mean, you know, every single person is respected and their place in the team is valued. So when you've built this environment, you can all sit around a table and every single person gets the opportunity to speak and add a value to the conversation. So for me, this was definitely a confidence issue. I used to feel like I couldn't really speak up in team meetings with, you know, AEs or AMs, other leadership, or even SDRs, because I don't know, I just kind of thought in the back of my head, like, people would say, you know, what would an SDR know? But that just isn't really the case at all. Now I see myself as part of, you know, a foundation of a revenue organization. And even though you have less experience than the people around you, you know, you can bring something new and creative to the table. So just to kind of conclude, kind of and summarize what I've spoken about, I think I didn't realize how important a team and the people that are currently, you know, virtually around me could help me not only build my resilience, but just help me grow as a person. I mean, most people at the start of their sales careers, you know, you don't want to be an SDR forever, but it's important to acknowledge your place and your importance in the team and use this time to learn. And it sounds really cheesy, but just inspire others. You know, Aristotle is famous for saying the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So basically meaning that, yes, while we can all be great as individuals, the fact is that we can all achieve so much more when we listen and coordinate with each other as one single unit. So that's all I wanted to talk about. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the talks.
That was amazing. Niamh, great opening. I wouldn't expect anything less from someone from SalesLoft. That was class. Thanks for bringing the energy in. Also a bit of philosophy, some awesome quotes in there. Very well done. That's a great example of an excellent talk. Niamh, we'll get you back on for the panel. Next, just had a brainwave. Sorry, major meltdown. Quick question for everyone in the chat. And just say one word. There's over 300 people on this. Would it be cool if we got as many as we could on a Clubhouse event at some point to talk about sales and being an SDR? Just put Clubhouse in the chat if you're interested in that, and we'll get organized. Okay, next up, we've got Charlie Beale, who is the Senior Business Development Manager for Cognism. And Cognism, we're big fans of. They were an early sponsor of Sales Confidence, and they're a fantastic GDPR lead generation platform for email and phone numbers. Charlie's going to be talking about seeking and you will find and working on the extra 1 or 2, 3% that you need to work on and develop to go that extra mile. Interestingly, he's very much progressed at speed through his time at Cognism and demonstrated those skills and that approach you need to take for getting that extra 1 or 2%. Now, I've heard that he is someone that likes to travel, been a little bit limited recently, and he was very lucky to get support from Venatrix in his early days, and he's recently, in the last year, been promoted to an AE or a senior BDM, as they're called at Cognism. Charlie, it's over to you.
All good. James, thank you very much for the introduction. I don't know who you've been talking to, but it sounds like you've got some insider knowledge there on the background, so good detective work. As James was saying, I'm one of the senior account execs over at Cognism. The topic for today, topic title, is called Seek and You Shall Find. You're probably thinking, church is on a Sunday, it's only Wednesday afternoon, what does this all mean? Before we jump into things, I've got 2 assumptions based on this talk today. So assumption number 1 is that you're an SDR and your natural progression is into an AE role. So that's what the one assumption of today is. The second assumption, and this is I would say sort of common knowledge, is the types of businesses that, you know, Sales Confidence, this community of the London tech space and further afield typically attract. You know, there's a very good chance, and I know for a fact, that a lot of you will have the tools, the support, the initial training all in place to do your day-to-day roles as an SDR successfully. So, you know, your calls, your SQOs, your commissions, your meetings booked, that's all going to be looked after. The point of this discussion today, seek and you shall find, is what extra effort can you get or go and find that will give you that extra 1 or 2% when your chance to jump into an AE shoes comes around based on those previous assumptions. You're probably thinking, Charlie, why are you asking me to do something that doesn't or get me more SQOs? These are some of the reasons why, and then I'll touch on what we're going to go through today. So the sort of excitement, what attracts people to these fast-growing companies is a multitude of reasons. But something that I found at Cognism, as James said, I was quite, you know, maybe lucky, but, you know, I went through the ranks relatively quickly, is that roles can open up when you least expect them. We're all in amazing companies. You don't know what's around the corner. You need to be ready for that AE role when the time comes. Hence the extra 1 or 2% today. The learning outcomes really from this quick talk is I want to encourage you more than anything to seek this extra 1 or 2%, this extra information outside of what you're already doing in your day-to-day as an SDR. And I'll touch on 3 main ones as I think today as we go through. On top of that, I'm going to give you 2 quick tips on what you can do immediately today, tomorrow, to help finding that extra information and get you off the ground running. Third and finally is I'm going to give you some takeaways around what I think worked for me, what I think could work for you looking back, around expanding your kind of knowledge base around departments, not just within your own business, but within other businesses that you're probably speaking to on the phones at the moment, and you'll be speaking to as an AE down the line. So kind of kicking things off with point number 1. This is around building your soft skill set, specifically soft skills around communication with different people. Sales is very interactive. You know, it's even harder than ever before at the moment to have that level of interaction with someone because we're all sat behind Zoom. But it's a very interactive role, as we all know. I think when you jump to an AE role, that gets multiplied. Typically, your conversations as an SDR are relatively short and snappy. When you move into an AE role, you start speaking at a greater length, but with multiple different people in different departments. The best salespeople are comedians. And what I mean by that is that you can switch your personalities around very, very quickly. And I don't mean that in a deceitful way, but how you speak to Mr. Sales Director that is, you know, Mr. Know-it-all, like he's down the pub on a Friday evening, is very different to how you speak to a CEO that is very, very corporate and very professional. You need to be able to spot these things and start tweaking them around. How can you start doing this? You're probably thinking. My first point, and what I want to encourage you to do, is to start seeking information from different departments. So, you know, outside of your KPIs, your calls, your SQOs, you know, what matters to a CMO might be very different to what you might think. What matters to a head of product or a CFO, again, could be very, very different to what at face value you're sort of pitching down the phones on a day-to-day. You're going to start being able to build a bigger picture and start joining the dots, I should say, around your business, but also the businesses that you're speaking with and putting that machine together. Leading on from this is my second sort of point for today, is start living in the minds of your prospects. You know, you need to start taking responsibility outside of your SDR roles to really understand what it is people focus on that you're speaking to on the phones, but you'll be speaking to as an AE. Leads on from the point earlier. You know, a fantastic course that I attended, and I wish I attended this earlier, was Sales Impact Academy, thinking like a CEO, opening up your horizons as to what different stakeholders within different businesses are ultimately worried about. If you don't have that, you know, start looking externally. There's nothing wrong with looking outside of your day-to-day to find that level of support. Building on from living in the minds of your prospect is the language that they use. The benefit for this, you know, more immediate is your calls. You know, start picking out what people say regularly, what resonates with the people that you're cold calling. But more importantly, when you get into that AE role, if you know that, you know, for example, CMOs focus on one buzzword, CFOs look at something else, CEOs, you know, could be jargon based on my experience, but everyone has a different focal point. The earlier you start understanding that and start getting that into your day-to-day, it's going to put you 1, 2, 3% ahead of the curve when your time to interview for an AE comes around. You know, people buy from the person, not the company, I think is a fairly debatable topic, but there's no denying having that level of rapport with someone initially is a massive value add. My first quick tip is build relationships with people in other departments within your business. We're all in these amazing, fast-growing companies. And if you look at career trajectory, they're usually roughly the same. If you can start building relationships with people in CS, product, marketing, that may have started at a similar time to you, they're going to go up the ranks alongside you, and that's going to put you in a very good position when your time comes to start moving up the ranks. My final topic for today, my third point, is around product knowledge. If you have access to some tools like Gong, Jimny, Chorus, Refract, all these things that you might be doing for calls at the moment, fantastic. Now's your chance to start looking at demos. What are AEs doing? What are the successful AEs doing to really get ahead of the curve? Final point from today, and really a conclusion. And this is my sort of quick tick number 2. Mentor-mentee structures. If you don't have a mentor-mentee structure in place, get one. What I mean by that is something that we have at Cognism is BDMs, SDRs, AEs, whoever you are, will work very closely with someone in the team. Typically, mentor is a more senior role, mentee slightly lower. It's like a safe space. Set up a call every couple of weeks. Discuss things that might be front of mind. What are you struggling with? What do you need to work on to get to that AE step so you're ready when the hiring time comes? Concluding that off is AE feedback. Seek that feedback whenever you can, because trust me, when that hiring comes, people will be looking internally for what people on the front line, what boots on the ground are saying about different SDRs. So build those relationships with your AEs early doors. I've gone slightly over the 7 minutes, so I'm going to cut things there. I know James has got the next speaker coming up, but thank you very much, guys.
Charlie, great job. Thank you very much. It's been a long time coming. Just to say, you know, Charlie is one of those strong advocates of having a good time and having a good night out when we bring people together. And if you're wondering how we select our speakers, one, it's being part of this community, and then we take recommendations from your sales leaders. So quite simply, everyone's vetted before they get a chance to come on the sales confidence stage. And we've now been doing this for over almost 4 years. So it's definitely a highlight to get people to come on. Charlie, great talk. Another question before we bring on the next speaker, who is Benjamin from Perkbox. Do you use a call recording software provider like Refract or another one? Just put the name of the call recording or say no if you use call recording so you can listen to calls and learn and improve. So our next speaker is actually moving house, is somewhere on the M1. I never usually do this, but as he's a great speaker, I agreed that Benjamin Flowers will stream in via a recording. He started his role as an SDR at Perkbox in August 2019. So weathered the pandemic like many others as an SDR, and then went on to progress into an AE and get promoted. Perkbox is the UK's fastest growing employee engagement experience platform. So I'm going to share this now and just put yes if you can see this. If not, we'll jump to our next speaker. And by the way, single talk we've ever done, and there's over 375, is available on YouTube. And if you want to help me categorize them, and I will pay you, just DM me directly, because we're going to categorize them and make them super searchable. And for now, I'm gonna hand over to Ben.
Hello all, and thank you so much, James and Sales Confidence, for having me. I've learned a massive amount at these events and met some really great, really inspiring people at them since starting out my own sales career. So I've been really keen to speak at one for ages, so it's really good to be here. I think being an SDR, being a BDR is genuinely one of the best jobs in the world, to be perfectly honest. I think, because with little or no experience, you get the opportunity to learn from some, wildly successful people. You get a chance to build a general resilience, problem-solving skills. You develop a really great work ethic and can get a really good grip of what the sales process looks like in a role where you're genuinely the backbone of any, successful sales organization. You also get world-class career opportunities and progression. That's pretty hard to find, to be honest, at this stage in your career. And depending on what you like most in the SDR BDR role, there's lots of different avenues, whether it's marketing, SDR leadership, customer success, or the more traditional route of moving up within the sales organization as an account executive or AE. Having pretty recently made that move from SDR to AE, at Perkbox, I was really keen to give you guys some good kind of actual advice on how to accelerate your own career in sales and do the same based on what I did and what I've seen others do before. So there are 6 main points I'd draw on. Number 1, quota, target, however you want to kind of call it. Seems obvious, but this part's massive. If you're really set on stepping into an AE role, you want to aim to be going above and beyond those targets as much as possible. The others speaking today will have some fantastic points on kind of how you can make sure you do that, but the target is the key metric, you know, for anyone looking to make promotions from an SDR team, because it shows you could be, you know, consistent, calculated, that you're a hard worker, basically that you've got the basics needed to make the call, you know, to make the next steps. You know, if the reps to the left and right of you are ahead of you on the leaderboard, it's likely, but by no means definite, that they'll be ahead in the running, you know, when it comes to the interview. The reason I say by no means definite is because there are a lot of other things you can do, which are helped, particularly, you know, for me, which can set you apart, you know, beyond just the target. So if you've missed target for a couple of months, don't stress out, everyone does, and there are tons of other ways to stand out from the crowd. Which segues me into number 2. So get hands-on, go beyond your remit. You want to start looking at where you can add value. Are there any SDRs who could use some new help, you know, onboarding, training, lend a hand where you can? Is there an outreach sequence that maybe is a bit rusty, a bit old, could use you know, share some ideas, you know, how can you fix it? How can you make it better? Think you could offer, you know, could you do anything more for your deal beyond just qualify and pass into the AE? Ask what you can do, be proactive. Being proactive as an AE is a key skill set. So you want to show that you already have that or are kind of developing it at the moment. Number 3, massive, is just ask. Learn what you need to do for the jump. You know, 2 main avenues for that would be with your AE or any managers, you know, could be directors. Ask the AEs what they did, what were their processes, what did they, you know, how did they prepare for the interview stage, and so on and so forth. And the other one obviously is with your managers. You know, who's in a better place to ask these questions to than the people who will be, you know, interviewing you in terms of what you need. Doesn't matter if it's your SDR manager, your AE manager, could be a sales director. They'll all be helpful in terms of, you know, asking the difficult questions. You know, what am I missing? What can I do better? What can I work on? What do I need to improve? I know we all like hearing the positive stuff. We, you know, same as anyone, but, you know, they're not necessarily, because of that, the nicest conversations to have. But I promise, if you really drill down into those areas, you'll be miles ahead, you know, than those who haven't. And as an SDR, you've got a billion things to do anyway. So really working on what you need to focus on, you know, when you don't have all the time in the world, it's important to, so you don't waste time on other stuff. Number 4, you know, be on top of your leads and processes. I mean, I'll be the first to put my hands up and say I absolutely hate admin. I can see the Perkbox RevOps team shaking their heads, but I do. And that's an area when I asked my own manager what I needed, you know, to do, that was highlighted. So I made a lot of, he highlighted it as a massive area of improvement, I remember him saying. But I worked on that and it worked really well. You know, having all your leads in the right stages, filling out all the right criteria, having really good notes, dotting all your I's, crossing all your T's in whichever database you use, you know, show you can do that. And it's one of the easiest ways to be seen as someone who is really on top of their game. Everyone's using systems. It doesn't matter if it's marketing or sales or operations. Everyone will be seeing them, and it's, you know, immediately obvious those who aren't quite up to scratch. I know because I used to be there. And a massive part of being an AE is being on top of your stages, following up leads, making sure your admin's there. So 100%, you know, make sure that you are already there and don't need hand-holding. Number 5 is expertise. Now, one of my favorite things about sales is, you know, and one of the reasons I think it is genuinely one of the best careers on the planet is that it's a game of continuous learning. Learning how to sell, that's something the others in you know, today will cover. But in terms of looking for that promotion, you want to be seen as an expert on a few things. You want to know about your industry, your persona, and your product. You want to know the ins and outs as much as possible. Have them in the armory, because at AE, they will be really tested. Number 6, and I left this for last because it's absolutely important, is building relationships. Sales is a game of building relationships. So you want to focus on this both internally and externally. Externally, meaning with prospects, you're going to want to edge towards being more consultative in your conversations. Because as an SDR or BDR, it can be super easy to be quite transactional, have a prospect fly through a sequence, quick qualification, product dump, and your job's done. No, instead you want to focus on you know, active listening, understanding, and selling based on their need, not just you know, doing all the above. As I'm sure the others will say today, because that is really what the bread and butter is, being a really good AR, and it's a surefire way of setting you out as someone who's really ready for it and someone ready for the jump. On the flip side, internally, relationships also is important. You know, a huge part of the move will be based if you're, you know, are you a team player? Are you known as the SDR or BDR that gets on with everyone? Are you passing over really good leads? Are you super helpful in the sales process? Again, really good ways of setting you kind of apart. So basically, to kind of summarize, there's not one single thing you can do that will be the golden ticket. That's not how it works. Could take 6 months, could take 3 years. It's a process. So get all the right things in place to set you up to be successful, as an AE, and be someone ready for the move. So the key things, the 6 of them, to take away from what helped me that I think might be able to help you. And number 1, know your targets. Number 2, be proactive, go above, go beyond your remits. Number 3, ask what you need to do and where you need to improve. 4, dot your I's and cross your T's. 5, become an expert. And number 6, build those relationships. Hope that's been useful in giving you some insight into how I made the step up and how I've seen others do it. Hopefully, those 6 things are things that you can start doing now or tomorrow. Thanks a lot.
Elaine and Olivia, can you come on?
Hello.
Hi, James.
Hi, Olivia. Well, I tried. We're improved that. Elaine, do you want to intro Olivia and then we're crack on?
Yeah, perfect. Okie dokie. So this is Olivia Dorval. She is a commercial account executive at Confluent, and really looking forward to hearing her talk, which is rocking the transition from SDR to AE. No doubt something that all of you guys are keen to make. So she's going to be talking a little bit about moving from pre-sale process to full pipeline generation, techniques to get ahead, and what's the next step after that first meeting as an AE. And to give you a little bit of an intro to Olivia, she started her career at SimCorp, a technology firm selling software to investment banks, as a field marketing associate. Following this, she held multiple SDR roles at fintech startups Divido and Duology before making move to Confluent, the company behind real-time event streaming, valued at $4.5 billion. She remained there as an SDR for 1.5 years, inbound and outbound, after achieving consistently over 150% of her target, and made her first move to a sales quota carrying role as a commercial account executive in January. So take it away, Olivia.
Hi, everyone. Very nice to meet you and very happy to be here to share my experience. So what I'm going to talk to you a bit about is my transition from SDR to AE. So I've just transitioned in January. And as an intro, what I wanted to touch point on is, so as an SDR, we're involved in a very small part of the sales cycle, which is a very, very difficult and hard part, if not the hardest of all of the sales cycle, but it's still a very small part, which is generating interest in a meeting. And there's a bit of a difference in how to be successful as an SDR and how to be successful as an AE. To be successful as an AE, you need to be great at, yes, generating interest, and that's very important, and that's what you're doing right now in your current role. But you also need to be able to uncover and identify opportunities that are worth spending time on, and how to control that whole process that leads to a sale after that first meeting. And those are very different skills. So what I'll be talking to you about is those 7 minutes is sharing some tips and my advice on things that you can do now as an SDR to get ready for the next step as an AE, and to have a great transition into the role. So I've personally done those things over the past year, and they really helped me both be successful as an SDR, so you will definitely benefit from them in your current role, but they will also help you be ready to make the move when the opportunity comes. So the first point that I want to talk about is preparation, and doing the groundwork on the side of your current SDR role to be ready for that next step. So what I'm talking about here is basically I'm asking you to shadow sales call, learn as much as you can, set monthly calls with sales reps and ask them questions, ask them for tips, understand how salespeople that you're setting up meetings for, how they position your product, how they qualify opportunities, what are the characteristics of good opportunities, and what are the characteristics of the type of customers that they're having more success with. So you're working right now with AEs and setting up meetings for them. So it's an amazing opportunity for you to just learn from them and try to take as much as you can in and leverage that knowledge that you can learn. It will really help you identify which accounts to spend your time on when you do your territory planning as an AE, and give you a better understanding of how to qualify opportunities that you're managing and how to lead the meetings that you will end up setting up for yourself. if that makes sense. So the first point was everything related to preparation and groundwork. The second one that I want to talk about is the value proposition and the product training. So often as an SDR, you're the first point of contact for a lot of people within the company. So it's very important to be able to position the product in the right way, understand the value proposition. You know, it might be different depending on the persona, the type of person that you're speaking with, whether they're low in the organization, whether they're high. Their interests and their interests will vary. So understand how to position the product and the value proposition behind it. That will benefit you as an SDR when you do your calls, but it will be primordial for you to be successful as an AE as well. Another point that I want to touch on, and that links as well to what Charlie was saying before, is build your brand internally and build great relationships with different people in the company. And what I mean by that is I see so many people, and don't get me wrong, that's great. I see a lot of people putting a lot of effort on building a brand on LinkedIn. And I think that's really important for sure. But don't underestimate the importance of building your brand internally within the business. And not just in the organization, the SDR organization, but with different teams like sales, technology, legal, customer success, sales operations. Everyone, you'll need to leverage all those people when you turn to sales, and they will be a great help and resource when you get to the AE role. And if you're friends with them, if you already got a relationship with them, it's way easier to just ask them something on Slack when you need it. And trust me, you'll need it when you get to the AE role. Actually, there's a lot of admin that we have to do when registering opportunities, when moving to different sales stages, getting order forms to sign customers. There's a lot of different moving parts in a business that need to coordinate to make a sale happen, and there's a lot of different people involved. So the more relationships you have and the more you can leverage them, the better. Another point I want to talk about, and that also relates a bit to the first one that I was mentioning, is work on understanding the sales process within your company. And that's really primordial for you to be successful as an AE, is understand what are the different sales stages and try to go beyond that first meeting that you're setting and understand what happens after that first meeting. Because once you're the AE, you'll have to set the next step yourself and understand, okay, where this is going. Do I have a close plan? How am I leading this forward? You need to be in control of the sale, and you need to understand the different sales stages and what is needed for each of them. If there's any specific information that you need to collect, if there's a sales framework that your company uses that might be BENT or MEDIC or MEDPIC or whatever. So what I advise you to do is try to follow some of the opportunities and meetings that you book for your AEs and attend the follow-up calls with your AE and understand what's the process, and ask your AEs question, why are you doing this? Why are you setting this next step? Why are you not doing that? And try to understand a bit better how a sale happen in the different stages. And so the last point that I want to talk about is just a reminder that don't think that AEs are just doing amazing things. Most of our time is spent doing the same thing that you're doing, which is pipeline generation and trying to get ourselves meeting. Unless you have AEs that are only working on inbound leads. What I'm doing is mostly outbound, so I very much have to build my own pipeline. And I spend 90% of my time building my own pipeline right now because I'm just starting off. So I would also focus on trying to be the best SDR that you can and enjoy the role as much as you can, or try to find new ways of being successful, because those will benefit you as well when you transition to the A role and you have to set up those meetings as good as you can get by yourself. So these were my 5 points. I hope it was helpful, and I really believe if you apply them, you'll be ready for the next step, and you'll also benefit from them in your current role as an SDR. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have in the chat or on LinkedIn as well. Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much there, Olivia. Some top tips for everybody preparing themselves to make that next step in their career. So now I'm delighted to introduce our last speaker of the afternoon. So now we're going to be hearing from Karen Svane. I hope I did that justice, Karen, after our pronunciation lesson earlier. And she's the Director of Business Development at Varicent. And she's going to be talking to us about something that I'm pretty sure we all need to have a good grasp of right now, which is the art of self-motivation. So Karen's going to be telling us a little bit more about how she defines self-motivation, and going above and beyond and getting to know the pain points of your business and aim to be the solution of those, and also learning to love the job that you do. So excited for this one, Karen. Take it away.
Fabulous. Thank you. So this is really what I say to everyone that I'm recruiting for, everyone I'm interviewing. I tell this to my team all day long. So hopefully this will resonate with you and you can find some inspiration. So my overarching topic is self-motivation. I typically say that being an SDR or BDR, it's just like wearing a Fitbit. Your goal for the day is to hit 10,000 steps. Sometimes it's raining, sometimes it's uphill, sometimes there's a pandemic and your gym is closed, but you need to find a way to get to those 10,000 steps. Anyway, being an SDR is just the same way. Every morning, you start out with a blank sheet, you have your goal and you have your strategy to get there. And the same thing for your week. You plan out your week and you know this is how I'm going to get to my goal, and you don't stop until you get there. So that's really the mindset that I want you to think about when we talk about these things. So I have 3 topics I want to go through. I have 3 themes. You create your job, you create your success, and you create your future. This is very much in your hands how you take this to the next step. No one starts out and says, I'm going to be a BDR or an SDR for life. People want to enter the sales organization, figure out where do I fit, and then pursue that dream. So let's start with you create your job. I like to say that there are 10 blocks of time in your week that I pay for. There's typically Monday through Friday, mornings and afternoons. If you choose to walk your dog, or you have a doctor's appointment, or you think that Monday mornings you're going to spend them on going to the gym, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to take one of the other blocks of time that you have, or you're going to give it to me, which could be evenings, it could be weekends. You're in charge of how you structure those 10 blocks of time, and you can see more value in maybe I'm going to spend Sunday evenings sending out emails to my C-level contacts because there's a tendency that they read them more on a Sunday night than on a Tuesday morning when they're busy in meetings. This is very much up to you and how you structure your job. The second thing, and this is super important, you create your voice. I am a firm believer that you and I can get on the phone, say the exact same words, and get 2 wildly different outcomes. So you need to think about your voice. You need to think about how am I presenting myself as I talk. You notice maybe that Charlie, he was standing as he was presenting. Currently, I'm sitting. Think about when you're doing your outreaches, how are my shoulders? Am I giving myself enough space to be energetic? What am I projecting? Am I smiling? People can hear it on the phone if you are in an energetic, forward-thinking mood, or if you're slightly hungover from last night at the pub, or if you're really not feeling making phone calls that day. It comes through so easily. So you have to find your voice. Secondly, you create your success. You have to do what others don't want to do. That touches on some of the things that Charlie said, the extra 1 to 2%. If people don't want, if your colleagues don't want to send emails on a Sunday evening, maybe that's what you should do because there's less traffic and you get more noticed. Maybe you do your research just a little bit better, so you find that little really strange nugget that your target never thought anyone would find, and they go, that was interesting. How did you know this about me? Or how did you make that connection from my interest in rugby to how I can apply this to my sales performance management, to give an example. The third point within this is, as Olivia mentioned, you need to use your organization. You need to leverage your network. Get to know your organization, who within the organization is really clever on what topics that you can leverage, get inspired from, And also look at your entire organization as an extension of your business development. Anyone who's connected to anyone can help you out. So look at, do you know someone within your organization that went to the same university as your prospect? Do you know someone who's connected to a prospect or has worked at an organization that you're trying to get into? Reach out to them, build a relationship so you're not just asking for favors all the time, but also go, hey, I'd really like to pick your brain about this. People love to talk about themselves. So utilize that and get them to open up and help you out. So that's my second point, you create your success. My third point is you create your future. Again, no one wants to be a BDR for life. But I'll tell you one thing, you need to love being a BDR in order to progress. If you don't love your job now, you're not going to get to the next step, because if you don't love your job, you won't be great at it. So you need to find the things about being a BDR that you really love and you really excel at, that gives you energy, that motivates you, that drives you, and leverage that, enhance that, and then you will do great work and you will progress in the pace that you want and into the role that you want. So that is really, really key to being a successful BDR. Also because, let's face it, it's a lot of phone calls, it's a lot of voicemails, and sometimes it's a lot of people yelling at you or hanging up on you, or as I've had it before, like people call, you don't know what they're going through when you call them up cold calling. So sometimes you call them and that they're at the hospital and like, I'm sorry, I'm saying goodbye to my parent. Now's not a good time. And I'll go, why are you picking up your phone? I didn't know, that's not my fault. So that's one of my other points around you create your future. This is just business. This is not brain surgery. There's no one's life or death depending on this. If you have a bad call, like that certainly was, and I still remember it 10 years later, put them on the back burner, call them back a little bit later, and they'll forget all about it. You won't, but they will, because they get so many phone calls. It's just business. My final point is, when you start as a BDR, expect change. You know that you want to progress your career pretty quickly, but within your BDR development, there's change constantly, and expect to be pushed to do different things, try different angles, try a new messaging. If you're stagnant and you think that this one approach is going to work with every single persona you're reaching out to, with every single organization, with every single industry, you're going to fail. You need to be agile and try different tools, different methods, play around with, hey, can I leverage things from social media? Can I leverage video? I found this really weird picture on Instagram. How can I spin it? And use your team, your colleagues to think about these things. So those are my three key things. It's very much in your hands how you create your future, and especially in these days, because we're all working remotely, and I am certainly not one for timing how many coffee breaks you take. I expect you to be self-motivated and be proactive in what you do.
And thank you very much, Karen. Excellent speech there. Now, I think we're going to be moving into the panel. So I'd like to invite the speakers back to the stage. And our guest today, if anybody else has got any questions that they would like to ask the speakers, do pop them in the chat and I will do my level best to get them answered for you. Okie dokie. Did you enjoy that, guys?
Yeah.
That was good.
The thrill of the delivery, I think you always feel like you've had an adrenaline rush, don't you, when you kind of address the virtual audience? Perfect. Okie dokie. So obviously Karen talked a little bit there about some kind of ideas around making sure that your outreach isn't stagnant. And perhaps you guys saw on LinkedIn last year that we had our very own Sophie Allen, Business Development Director, jump in the sea to try and attract the attention of a prospect. So I wanted to ask you guys, what is the most inspired piece of outreach you've ever done to try and win a client to inspire our audience? Who'd like to go first?
Go on, Niamh.
I was like, what is the most inspiring thing I've ever done? I think, okay, I'm definitely not as gutsy as Sophie for sure. I think I definitely need like a boost more confidence. I'd say I think I spend a lot of time researching, so I wouldn't say I do think really gutsy. I just spend just a couple more minutes just trying to find a little nugget of research. Nothing particularly about the company, just something more about the prospect, what they like. Oh, they like cycling. Okay, perfect. Let me see if I can create an email with a story about cycling, just something like that.
Mm-hmm. So trying to get to know them personally. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Ideas around inspired outreach that you guys have done?
I can go next. So unfortunately, I'm sorry, but I'm a bit like in Neith's team in that I wouldn't say that I'm an amazingly creative person in my outreach, but what I try to focus on when I write my emails is I just write the email and I take a step back and I read it, and I'm trying to think, putting myself in my prospect's shoes and trying to understand, if I would receive it, would I actually answer? Would I actually read it? Would it interest me? And I'm trying to, to take that perspective and make it about them and make it quite short. And those are my top tips. And for me, it's worked quite well, personally.
Okay, cool. A good question coming in from the audience here then is from Jasmine. So I guess one angle is obviously getting to know people on a personal level, but what about if you're trying to sell to a tough crowd like financial services sales directors, where maybe that personal tone might not resonate with them? Then what would be your top tips there to try and get the message across to get them to engage with you?
I guess it's my turn to jump in on that one. Basically, obviously from an AE perspective here, but I think it applies to SDRs on the phones as well, is this term called like mirroring. And I know some people have probably heard that, they've probably read some books or tips, and it sounds like a bit of a bogus term, but it's very straightforward. It's just reciprocating what that person is doing to you on the other side of the call or the demonstration. If you've got someone that's very direct, very to the point, not giving you much, don't be afraid to do that back to people. Don't be afraid to mirror that kind of bluntness, that kind of straightforward approach. And a lot of senior people actually respect it. They actually prefer you being straight to the point as opposed to fluffing around with different answers. So my advice, if you have a tricky crowd, is don't be afraid to mirror them, dish them back kind of what they're giving you on the other line, and just be very concise with the questions that you're asking. Don't beat around the bush.
Cool. I think that's some really good advice there. Okay, Niamh, you obviously talked about the importance of team. So for anybody who's joined us today, who's thinking, right, I'd really like to bring some of those dynamics to their team, what is something that an SDR could instigate potentially as like a team activity to maybe foster that team working environment?
Yeah, I think firstly, when you start, just like make the effort to just put at least 15-20 minutes in like everyone's diary. I think I'm really close with the AEs as well to the SDRs. So I'm just making the effort, just try and get to know each other on a personal level. And then we all have different WhatsApp groups to like celebrate success and things like that. But I think one thing that we've tried that we haven't like completed yet, but we tried to all jump on a Zoom and then do cold calls and then come back and then like give each other feedback. But none of us have actually tried to got the same time that we're all available. But that's something that I think people could just give it a go, just to create that like office environment, like you're doing a calling hour, trying to create that buzz.
Any advice from the rest of the panel there about how to foster that team working environment, especially maybe in the remote times that we're in?
So I run a global team. So I think they all sit at home. They all sit, across multiple time zones. So I think one of the biggest things that we have is a Slack channel. I know it's really low key, but my biggest job in that is really, I'm a cheerleader for my team. I think a lot of what I do is just trying to get the good thing out of them. And then we do regular sessions around messaging, around objection handling, and we work together to inspire each other and really lift each other up rather than go, oh my God, this is such a grind.
So keeping that positivity flowing through your online channels when you're working together, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so I think one of the things that the BDR community really enjoy from Sales Confidence is practical tips that they can put into place straight away in their roles. So I'm going to ask you for either your best voicemail tip or what you do in the first 10 to 15 seconds of your call, if it's answered, to attract and hook your prospect. So go on, Charlie, what have you got for us? A voicemail hook.
I'm going to go down the voicemail route. I'm a big advocate of not pitching on a voicemail or asking for someone to call you back, and actually using a voicemail as like another channel to steer them in another direction. So a really practical way to do that, and an example that I would use would be, you've gone through to someone's voicemail, quick introduction, say that you've sent them over something really exciting via email, or I'm going to be sending you something really exciting via email, and leave it there. Don't try and pitch, don't ask for time to call you back, because they're probably not going to call you back. But just get your name in front of them. When they see your name crop up in the top of their inbox, they're more likely to be opening that because you've already dropped your name over, would be my one for voicemails.
Cool. Niamh, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I was just going to reiterate that. I like to send vidyards as like my first touch, just like a 45-second video to my prospects. So I'll leave a voicemail a couple of days after, just like directing them to the inbox. And all I say is the subject line is, and then just say, blah, blah, I sent you over a personalized video or something like that. And then for the first 10 seconds of the video, I just like to hold up my phone and say like, hey, Elaine, the reason I'm reaching out to you is because I saw this, and just keep it short and sweet.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And Olivia, a hook
Yeah.
from you?
Yeah, I'll go for the hook to give a bit more insights on that. So basically, the way I approach cold calling is I call it more warm calling. So what I'm trying to do if I cold call someone is basically giving them a reason to listen to me. And so I'm doing my research beforehand. I don't just... I would do a research on a list that I have, and I wouldn't have a very long list. I would have a list of people that I really want to reach out to, and I know why. So for example, I might reach out to someone and say, hi, Nick, I'm reaching out to you because of your role at that company. I've noticed on LinkedIn you're working on those types of projects. I'm actually working with some other of your peers, and I can name some specific companies on those types of projects. And I was hoping we could schedule a discussion to understand if we can replicate, or if there's an opportunity for us to work together as well. So that's just an idea. But basically trying to do my research before and understand what they might be interested in, so I can relate my messaging to that.
And making the calls meaningful. What do you advise your team to do, Karen?
So I agree with everyone. The thing is, people's attention span is super short. So you need to show, I am calling you, I'm approaching you because of these reasons. Within 10, 15 seconds, that's all you have. And one of the things that we've stopped doing in our voicemails is actually giving the phone number, because everyone has caller ID. And it's just taking time, and people already zone out, right? And to go back to my point about voicemails are really tricky because you repeat them so often that you sound really scripted. So you need to make sure that you put on a smile, shoulders up, and then you sound like you're really excited to talk to this person, right? And so those are the things that we talk about, like how do we make sure that this is another touch point where you get a point across and you don't just sound like, oh, this is another voicemail.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Sounds good. Obviously, Karen, you talked about self-motivation, and one of the major aspects of working in sales as either an SDR or an AE is naturally we're going to have good days and we're going to have more challenging days. So when you guys have had a bad day at the home office, what's your go-to strategy to make yourself feel better and then supercharge your next move that you take to generate pipeline?
I'm happy to jump in on that one.
Go on.
Yeah, I can speak from experience here. I've had my fair few rough days, so I'm not going to shy away from that fact. So one thing I think that I've learned is that it comes around to trusting your processes. We're all in fantastic companies. We've got fantastic people around us. The chances are you've probably got a very robust process in place. And as long as you're doing, the numbers in between each step of the way, things will tend to look after themselves. So I don't think there's a case of just do more, make more dials. I think people can work smarter, not harder. But if you trust your process that you've got in place, that's really, all you need as a foundation to keep yourself going. Things will turn. Sales is annoying because when you're really, really busy, you don't really see the results at the time of being busy. It's usually a month, 2 months, or even 3 months later if you're an AE that you start reaping those rewards. So trust your processes. it'll come is my advice on that one.
Yeah, perfect. Neith, do you want to add to that? Any ideas from you?
Yeah, I keep saying, just to reiterate what Charlie said. Yeah, I was going to say, like, trust the process. So just figure out like what KPIs you need to do, like monthly, weekly, and then what you need to do a day, just the minimum. So then let's just say you've had a really busy day of calls, discovery calls, or you've been jumping on like internal meetings. As long as you've done that minimum, again, just trust the process and know that by the end of the week, at least you've done that, and then the results will come.
Cool. Sounds good. Perfect. Olivia, any thoughts from you there?
Yeah, well, everything the Niamh and Charlie said is absolutely true. So I'm a big fan of strong processes, and make sure you contact certain amount of leads and contacts every day. And you know, you'll see the results, and at some point, hopefully, where you'll get is you'll basically plan ahead and have some meetings already planned for the next month and the next quarter. And then you enter a quarter already have, for example, half of your target done with meetings you've booked from previous month. And then you take off all the stress, and it becomes easier. And you also at this point have more time to spend on building relationships and doing other things on the top of that can help you, in terms of self-development and get ready for your next step. If it's customer success or AE, it depends what you want to do. But yeah, I would advise on that. So planning ahead, processes, and being organized.
Yeah, what do you advise your team, Karen?
I mean, I said it earlier, it's just business. Look, we all sound like idiots on the phone. We really do. The first time you're pitching a new product line or a new angle, or you come back from holiday, I mean, it takes a little time. And sometimes you get caught out. You've made 50 phone calls in a day, you haven't spoken to a single one, and then all of a sudden the CIO that you called 40 times before, he's actually picking up, and you're like, right? We all know it, we've all been there, it's just business. That, to me, that's shake it off, brush yourself off. Your goal is 10,000 steps in a day, so let's go.
Love that. Elaine, thank you for hosting this panel, and thank you to the speakers. Sorry, Charlie, to kick you out there, but this has been amazing. So can we have a round of applause, virtual round of applause for all of the speakers and all of you for joining us today. So it's not over yet. We've got networking available for the next half an hour. And this is an opportunity to connect with each other. If you want an ice-breaking question, ask the person for their fun fact. It's so cliche, but at least it can open up the conversations and get this moving. Think about the takeaways that you've got from today and think about how you can implement this. What we're doing with Sales Confidence is trying to create actionable insights that you can take back into your day job after this event or tomorrow. Really appreciate our speakers today. Thank you, Neith from SalesLoft. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Ben Flowers from Perkbox. I will send that around. Sorry about that, wasn't cool. Thank you also, Charlie from Cognism, and also the wonderful Karen sharing her experience and expertise from Varicent. So at this point now, you can head over to the networking stage on the right. I'm just going to do some thanks for our partners, and feel free to message me if you can help with our YouTube channel. I basically want to make the YouTube channel a place where you can go and you can just pick on what you need to search, and then we can float it up to you because there's over 365 videos. I want to crowdsource this. DM me. Thank you for Adam and a couple of others, Karen, and also Stacey that emailed me to help out, but I need a few others, and I'll also pay you some dinner money, pocket money, or beer money. Hopefully we can get to use that just to help out as well, but you'll get to learn along the way. So thanks again for Elaine co-hosting. Thank you for our diamond partner, SalesLoft, the #1 sales engagement platform. Also, check out Varicent from a sales performance perspective and speak to your leadership team about Aircall, Venatrix if you're hiring, MindTickle if you're building out a new team, and then Cognism, Refract, Air Marketing, SalesWorks, and also Sales Psyche if you're looking for some support with your mental well-being and performance. So thanks again, everybody. Head to the networking. Stay around. We want to have conversations with people. I'll be there. Elaine will be there. The speakers will be there. So thank you very much.